What are some of the tips that you can give maybe for diet? Because, okay, apart from losing weight, right? What should someone eat? What should someone not eat? And during such a long race, like, what do you eat during the 24 hours? Like, and how do you do it? You know, because we were thinking of doing like protein balls or stuff like that, but give us some tips on that as well.
So for 24, like for some tips, I suppose I found really good now, date bombs. So like dates stuffed with almond butter and dark chocolate on the outside. It's quite a good snack. It's got dark chocolate, so you're not getting a really sugary hit. You got fats in the almond butter and you got some carbohydrates in. There's quite a few calories. So they're a good little treats. Like, but again, it's everybody's different. Some people do potatoes, some people do gel, some people can't eat, some people can have a ham and cheese sandwich. It's about kind of figuring out what works for you, kind of thing. And I suppose keeping it as healthy as possible. You know, bananas, you get potassium in bananas. If it's a hot race, you might be sweating a lot, so keep your eye on your salts as well. So maybe a salt tablet, like you can, you know, if there's white patches on your t-shirt, you're a heavy salt sweater, so you need to replenish those electrolytes. Loads of things like those races I was doing in the long races. I was aiming for 6,000 calories a day. So because it was Arctic conditions, the temperatures were down as cold as -35. So I couldn't have a Snickers bar and I couldn't have a sandwich because it would have broken my teeth.
And what about water as well? Like, does it freeze?
It certainly freezes. Yeah. So people have different systems. Some people just have thermos flasks, but I wore a vest. I wore like a hydration vest in between my base layer and my mid layer, and that's how I use my body temperature. Then I had to straw coming out here, so I use my body
to keep it warm, from freezing.
The odd time then you might let the straw hanging out the front and freeze, but you know, if it's stuff it in your to defrost it again.
Dude, those are some conditions that like you wouldn't think of that when preparing for a normal race, like. And how did you get to the Arctic at all? Like, what did you find out about the race? Like, how did you make the decision to do it? Like, tell us a little bit about pre-race.
So about 3 years ago, I was just backpacking by myself in Canada, and I'd heard about the Yukon from a couple of different sources. You know, Jack London's got a book about it, Into the Wild, and I had a friend who said I would really like it, and I was just in Canada, and I was like, -40. I want to see what that feels like. So I flew from Vancouver up to Whitehorse and stayed at a hostel there. And it just so happened there was an ultra marathon. The Yukon Arctic Ultra was on like 5 or 6 days later, maybe a week later. So I offered to volunteer on it and help them out. And I heard they had a marathon. I saw some of the runners running around town, and I thought they'd be really specialist runners with specialist gear, and like. Was looking at it, I was like, oh yeah, like I've got some of that gear kind of thing. So I did a 15k run and was feeling pretty okay, like in -20, -25. And then I asked the organizer, could I do the marathon? And he said I couldn't for insurance reasons. But so then I decided I was going to come back next year and do the 100 mile.
Okay.
So I ended up coming back and I finished first foot racer in the 100 mile, and then came back and did the 300 mile just this year, gone.
Wow, crazy! Like when I listen to the numbers, man, it's like. How long did you prepare for that race, or is it more for you that you've been doing it so long that you're kind of always ready?
I think I'm getting to a stage now where I'm not always ready for a big race like that, but I'm at a stage where I can turn it around in about 3 months. So like my foundation fitness is pretty solid, and then it's like I'll pick a race, which I suppose has just happened to me in this last week. Like I wasn't going to train this summer, but I've just been offered a run in a racing across Switzerland race that's on in July. So I'm just excited. At the weekend decided I'm going to do that. So that's 390k with 24,000 meters of elevation. So now I've got 10 weeks to train for that race. So like I was at a solid base, and okay, 10 weeks. I think I could do it, kind of thing. But this race will be interesting because it'll be much hotter. It'll be 30 degrees instead of -30 degrees. So it's a 60-degree swing from my last race, kind of thing.
Crazy. When I think about it, I would rather do a race in the cold than in the scorching hot. I don't know.
Me too.
Because when you're cold, like you can kind of keep yourself warm, right, by running, you know, and when you're on 30 degrees, like you can't keep yourself cold anyhow, and especially if there's like no shade or you're not running behind a mountain or something, like you're exposed to the heat, like you can get sunstroke. That happened to me almost during that race. You know, I was kind of hoping that here in Ireland it will be always kind of like cloudy and that it wouldn't be too hot, right? And then on that day there was not a single cloud in Beara. It was like 30 degrees, and I was like, what is this? You know, we weren't prepared for the heat. and we had to stop a few times, just in the shade to kind of cool down, do some breathing, get some like cold water on the
towel,
cloth, and put it on our heads to kind of cool down. And then the last part with the kayaking, oh man, like the water cools you off so much, man. We felt so great at the end of the race. Like we felt the best at the end of the race because we cooled off a little bit in the water, and that kind of saved us from the heat. But I will definitely try a race somewhere in the cold, just to try it.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, like personally, I would definitely prefer the cold, but cold like -30, -20 comes with its own risks as well. If you take your gloves off for 1 or 2 minutes, you can have frostbite with a race or lose some fingers. Like people have lost feet and hands on cold races, so it's different. It's my preferred also, but it does come with the challenges. But for example, in that race, my stove was -30 degrees. My stove wasn't working, so I had no way of cooking up food. So I was like nibbling on nuts, and nuts is another good one when you're for race food as well. Actually, a lot of fats and stuff.
Yeah, and they're hard anyway. So if they get a bit cold,
it doesn't break your teeth.
Yeah.
But my point was, like things were kind of going wrong for me. It had snowed. It was about 1.5 feet of snow, and I'd been going for 30 hours without sleep, and my stove wasn't working. So it's kind of potentially a pretty bad situation for me. But I kind of kept eating nuts, and eventually just camped and slept for 3 or 4 hours and woke up again, and I was kind of ready to go again, kind of thing.
All right, so you're running, walking, like going through the snow for 30 hours without the cooking stove, so you didn't have a proper meal, right?
Correct.
Living on nuts.
Yeah.
And then like sleep for 3 hours and like, I'm good to go. And then how much longer after that did you go for?
My system, I can't remember specifically, but probably like 16, 18 hours. That was kind of my system. I'd go for 16, 18 hours and then take a 3 or 4 hour nap and then go again.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see the full version, go to the Uncle Gold Podcast YouTube channel or watch the next clip.